Well, look, while one thing that Victoria and the UK probably have in common is that neither of them can manage money particularly well. Now, the Home Office in the UK, it's just been found that they have squandered millions and millions of pounds on these migrant hotels. We've covered them a fair bit on this show. There are around 30,000 migrants being put up in hotels around the UK, courtesy of the British taxpayer. You're welcome. But now a bipartisan committee has found that the Home Office has allowed accommodation contracts to blow out from around $4.5 billion to $15.3 billion. And this is just since 2019. They also have around $40 million of debts that some of these contractors owe back to the government that have gone uncollected. So in total, this scheme is ineffective. It has not deterred migrants from crossing. They've had 36,000 crossings just this year alone, and it is costing so much money, $15 billion now, up from what they expected to be about $4 billion. Now, these contracts that they have in place are supposed to go through till 2029. So the British people can expect another 4 years of basically being robbed blind by foreigners coming into the country. But imagine this. Imagine if the UK government had spent $15 billion, I don't know, policing the border.
Exactly.
Cracking down on crime, or maybe actually stripping back benefits for migrants to reduce the incentives to come to the UK. I mean, talk about a waste of money.
$15 billion over 10 years on border control would have solved the problem completely. Back in 2016, I was at they used to call it the jungle of Calais. It was like a refugee camp in France. There were thousands of refugees from typically North Africa, waiting to go across into the UK. And I talked with a number of people there, and they were clearly not running away from persecution or from anything terrible. Sure, their conditions weren't great where they'd come from, but they were clearly running to economic opportunity. I remember talking to an Ethiopian couple and saying to them, you know, there are homeless people in the UK. You know, there are people who can't, and they did not believe me. They honestly thought it's the land of milk and honey. And I don't begrudge them for wanting a better life, but at the same time, the people of the UK can't just open slather or let anybody come in without any controls. Otherwise, it destroys the way of life in the UK. But for these people who were lovely people, but clearly they weren't running from persecution, they weren't in a life or death situation that they'd come from. They were hoping to enrol in university, become qualified in medicine, I remember them telling me. And then they arrive in the UK and they're put up in beautiful hotels that cost 6 times more than other accommodation that could have been leased by the government, according to this report. And the British taxpayers have been footing the bill. And to make it worse, as you said, Freya, the government bureaucrats overseeing this program have not been watching it closely, as is always the case when the government just shovels money out. They just expect things to be taken care of. There's massive fraud, massive blowouts in expenditure, and the taxpayers picking up the bill for people who, at the end of the day, don't really need it.
And you can't really blame those people for trying it on, because when they see what's offered to them...
Of course.
I mean, you should have some more compassion for these people, James. Some of them are Algerians trying to shield their children from the horror of foreign chicken nuggets, all right? Let's be entirely clear about this. And let's also be clear. I'll give Sir Keir Starmer a whack, but it's not just the Starmer government. This was going on under the Tories as well. When it reached its height of about 54,000 people in hotels, that was 2023, when Rishi Sunak was Prime Minister. And also, to be clear, £15.3 billion sterling in Australian dollars is 31.14 billion. Now, if you put that into perspective of what the Australian national budget is, that'd probably be about 7% of our entire national budget. So that is significant spending. And of course, if you're one of these contractors who's been given a contract to supply accommodation to all of these migrants, and the numbers have increased again significantly since Starmer has become Prime Minister, if you've got the opportunity to put them in either a hotel that you're going to get a lot more money out of the government for, or in another bit of accommodation, accommodation, of course you're going to put them in a hotel. And all the people in the Home Office are far too busy worrying about all the people coming across the channel before they can even think about where they're going to put them when they get into the country. So, I mean, the UK just being robbed blind from every angle.